My brain says this, try this.
The St. Louis Cardinals don't know what an infield fly is, and I guarantee they know what an infield fly is.
And he struggled mightily, and I think that becomes an issue because now he's so criticized.
Talking
Overfluff.
over fluff. Too much fluff.
I think so.
Well, we're going to talk about it. Welcome to the Hitting Zone podcast. This is where we take tough subjects, we crush them, and if you like what we do, you need to follow us. Follow me, I guess, on Instagram at _MTS Performance. That is my hitting stuff. That's where you can go see me just blab in the facility or talk about new things and things that I believe in with this gentleman to my left here, because we both believe that the swing starts with the load. And if we don't have that down, our swing's probably terrible.
Not good.
Can be. Also, you can find me on X. This is the Hitting Zone site. It's capital H, Hitting Zone, STL, capital H, Z, and STL. And of course, on TikTok, that's where I'm doing most of my business right now. I'm having good success on TikTok, so we've been using it a little bit more. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday with my youngsters. And every once in a while, I invite somebody on the live that I don't know how to do that or why I did that. Actually had some Venezuelan and a Cuban lady on my last live. Whole nother conversation just happened there. Super interesting. But I got to follow. So that was cool.
Ay caramba.
It was super interesting, dude, because they talked about politics and stuff. And I was trying to teach hitting. But anyways, we want to make sure we thank Game 7 Baseball for their support of Youth Baseball Midwest. Game 7 has their events posted, so if you need any spring, summer events, go get on there. They have all the way up to the high school age groups now. Not so many on the high school side, but a lot of youth side.
Right.
Super 7 for Youth Baseball Midwest. Make sure you go check that out. It's a great event. We participated in it last year. Prime Sports, 3 locations, Fenton, Chesterfield, and St. Peter's. St. Peter's is still closed. However, you can still order your gear online if you need to, get it shipped out to you, or you can go visit the Fenton Chesterfield stores, which Chesterfield is 10 minutes maybe from Chester or from St. Peter's, 15 minutes. So YBM Club, it is now live. It's exclusive. You get cool content on there. We have a lot of rankings, breakdowns, player spotlights, early access to content that's coming out soon. And you can join now for that legacy member pricing. Visit youthbaseballmidwest.com and click the YBM Club and make sure you sign up. Shane Eames, back for the third part, three parts. I have that in my hair. That's why I'm bald.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Likewise.
3 parts in my hair. Or those are cowlicks, one of the two. I'm not sure what they're called. But part 3, obviously you should know Shane by now. Shane's been on. I love working with Shane just because of the conversation. He's got experience. He's got more than I got. So I like to listen. I like to learn. I love to follow him on his socials. So make sure you go to his socials. He's been on TikTok lately.
A little bit. Yep.
So
touching the water a little bit, getting out there.
Yeah, if you're a TikToker, make sure you go over and check out what he's doing. He's got a lot of his pro guys in right now, his college guys. They're probably on their way
college
back.
Yes.
But he's still got his professional guys that'll leave in a couple weeks to get ready for spring training. Hopefully some of them are invited to the Major League spring training.
I'm hoping.
But if not, they will get started soon. But Shane, the first one we did, we talked about the paid coach. We talked about the dad coach. And I wanted to talk about a little bit of the volunteer coach. Some people might argue and say, well, the volunteer coach is the dad coach.
Right.
I got to thinking about this, and I'm like, I'm not always sure that's the case, especially in travel ball or club ball, whatever we call this thing that is the monstrosity of St. Louis, St. Charles County baseball. But the volunteer coach, to me, I think is almost obsolete, and it's in the recreational center because parent coaches aren't really volunteers anymore for clubs, because a lot of times these guys go there because they're asking, can my kid play for free if I coach a team? So to me, that's not a volunteer coach. That's a guy that's not paying fees and passing that on to everybody else, which is fine. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. We do the same thing. There is somebody that is taking that ownership. So I do feel that it in this setting, it is okay. I think the volunteer coach, which I did, I know you did.
Right.
I think that is gone, at least at the club level.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think that we'll ever get back to clubs doing interns, requesting volunteers to get their, as you say, cut their teeth? Do you think that is a something that'll happen anytime soon?
I think it's definitely a viable option, especially for maybe players coming right out of college that have an interest in making this a career, something they can be mentored by a regular paid coach with some experience. And like you said, I mean, it's pretty much obsolete at the club level right now. But there's a lot of people that I know of that have a high interest level coming out of there that want to make this a career, and I think I think it would be a good way for them to do that. The problem is, I mean, really nobody wants to be a volunteer anymore. They want to get paid. So, I mean, and I can understand that, from just a standpoint of just gas money alone, with the amount of travel, hotels, meals, stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty tough to be a volunteer unless you're retired and you've got a nice little nest egg to live on.
Yeah.
That's where I think it really becomes obsolete, just for the simple fact that, a lot of these programs are on budgets, and these teams have a certain amount of money budgeted just for some coaches, and for them to pay a third coach or even a second coach, a little bit tough.
A little bit tough. And I when I think about this piece of a kid just graduating, or maybe they're 2 years and they're done and they want to get back into baseball and they didn't get a 4-year opportunity, or whatever the case may be. Maybe they're just done. Maybe it's an injury, whatever the case. And they're getting back invested in this game. To me, as a business owner / club, team owner, when I think about a volunteer and how that benefits me or my families, that person has to be invested as a volunteer. And I don't think that there's enough kids that come out of college because they're asking for $2 to $4 or $5 grand right away because they played college baseball. And it's not about the gas money to me. It's not about the travel, because that should already be in the budget. As an organizer, I would think, like, if I'm going to send my kids out of town, and he's my third coach, right? He's cutting his teeth, as you say. I'm going to make sure that kid has a hotel room, and I'm going to make sure that he has some gas money for traveling or whatever. I still look at that as a volunteer. I think about the $2 to $4 grand, or maybe $5 grand that a kid is getting paid. How many times do you see a kid walk in for $4,000 and he's not there the next summer? He's not coaching that team. Right. I see that all the time. There's this massive turnover because 22-year-old kids still do not want to spend their summers farting around with a bunch of 15,
they think it's a good idea until they find out it's not a really good idea, because their time is absolutely consumed pretty much every day coaching, traveling. I mean, these tournaments start on a Wednesday now. So you get home Sunday night late, you get Monday off, Tuesday practice, Wednesday you're hitting the road again. That's a grind for them. But nobody wants to put in sweat equity anymore. I was happy just to have an opportunity to coach in a dugout with a lot of really good mentors and use that as a lot of valuable experience on my dollar, mind you. I paid for my own gas, now hotel rooms, stuff like that, but most of the time too, I didn't really have to drive a whole lot because I'd catch a ride with them. But at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't want to put in that type of equity to get a lot of good experience out of it. They want to be, they want to be compensated now. So it's just the way the world is.
Where did we miss? I mean, maybe that's a different question for a different time, but where, as parents, I'm going to us as parents, because I feel like, my daughter's 30, so she's back in the game now, but she cut her teeth volunteering because she worked for me. I was the same way. And I felt like, when I went to work for Balls and Strikes was the first time I got paid doing something. I went back to my high school, didn't get paid. I wanted the experience. It mattered about my resume building. And, it just kept progressing. When I got paid working for Balls and Strikes, man, I thought you've arrived. I did. I made $10 an hour. I thought it was big time money, and that was back in 2000. So it tells you where time's at right now. Is I made way more than minimum wage then. But, I think about kids, like I tried to hire somebody, and right off the bat, he's like, I want $4K. I'm like, you have no experience. No. Why $4,000? Like, why not? How do you construct a lineup? How do you do these things? And I started asking these questions, and I'll figure it out.
No, we're not figuring that out when you've got parents that are invested in a program that want something out of it. I mean, you're just not going to stick a guy in there that don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden he wants to be paid $4 grand. That's where the sweat equity comes in.
Why don't we have that anymore?
It
Is it our fault? Like as parents, is it our fault for giving everything to them? Is it? I know we say society, but I mean we're the reason why it is the way
Sure.
it is, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that I don't feel this way or you don't do
Right.
this as a parent, but as a whole, I feel like all I did was just give everything
Sure.
to them, and they don't have to work for anything. It's
Mhm.
like that in school. I think they don't have to work for their grades. If they don't do their homework, they don't have to turn it in, right? So it's like it's this. If I'm coaching, I am what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say something else, but I'm thinking delegated to get something, but entitled to
Sure.
this pay. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not entitled to that. Go
No.
out there, work a little bit, get your experience. Maybe it's better that you're a volunteer because maybe I don't take you out of town.
Right.
Maybe you only stay in the in-town tournaments. And when you stay in town, that's when it benefits. And you know, it's not so crazy for you. So maybe you kind of get your feet wet.
Right.
You know, and I just think about we don't work hard enough with our youth today. We don't demand enough. We don't hold them accountable enough.
Right.
How do we expect them to be the volunteers that we need? And then that we pass this buck on our parents. And I think that's what bothers me more than anything is I have to charge $1,500 this year for a 9U baseball team.
Mhm.
That's insane to me.
Yes.
Okay. I don't get paid. I'm not paying for I'm not having them pay for we're going to go out of town for one event. I'm not having them pay for that. I'm not having them pay for my gas money. I don't think a 9U player should pay $1,500, but that's what it costs to play 9U
Absolutely.
baseball,
Right.
in the setting that they want to play. $1,800 for 12 games. It's insane, right? So I can't imagine having high school tournaments, which are $1,200-$1,400, having 3 coaches on there and going.
Right.
It would be great to have 3 coaches, right?
It would be really good, but that's just not the way it works.
Oh, why?
You know, I mean, a lot of these teams are just. I mean, they might have 2. You know, some of the teams only have 1, and then they bring in like I said, maybe a dad to run game changer or to coach first base. But you see a lot of it now that you've got high school players out there coaching first base.
Why is that okay?
I don't think it should be okay. But I mean, I think it's just the fact that there's so many teams out there. There's so many different options. There are not enough coaches to fill spots because of the sheer volume of the teams that are in our area.
Aren't the parents in charge of that? In control of that?
Good question.
I know that we're steering a little bit away from the volunteer coach, but we have so many teams, right?
Mhm.
So if we have so many, I'm just thinking high school
Right
now. If we have all these high school teams and you're paying to be $4 or $5 grand that you're paying to be a part of this organization, and you have one coach,
Mm-hmm.
why are you still there? One, and what are they promising you ahead of time? If it's promising 2 coaches, they better get 2 coaches out
Right.
there. You know, like,
Well, a lot of times they'll start with 2 and finish with 1. Somebody's going to bow out. And it'll be the
it's
guy.
hard.
Well, yeah, it's hard. It's the fact that you're under a little bit of a microscope. You're probably younger. The pressure of the parents. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to talk to parents before games, after games, in between games. The conflict alone, I think, drives a lot of them out, and the sheer fact that they probably bit off a little bit more than they can chew from a time commitment. All of a sudden, they're not able to go out with their buddies. They're not able to treat their girlfriend out for a couple nights. They're not able to go to concerts or other sporting events because all of a sudden, tournament schedule is out.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden the tournament schedule. How many times does the tournament schedule change in a matter of a weekend?
Yep.
So when you thinking, that hey, I've got a game at 10 and 2, I can go to that concert at 8. Here comes a rain shower. Now we're playing at 8, and you're like, I might be sick and act like I am sick so I can go to that concert because I've invested a couple $100 in tickets. I've got buddies. I've got, everything else. So, some of it's just attrition. I mean, they just wear out. They burn out, So this job is not for everybody.
Do you think that's why people don't volunteer?
I do.
Like this,
Yeah.
for that? And
when people volunteered before, they weren't playing, 60 games in 30 days. Or you just weren't playing the sheer volume. You weren't traveling as much. If you went to 1 out of town trip, that's awesome. 2, holy cow, you're really balling.
Yeah.
Now these teams are taking 5-6 trips in a summer. That's a lot on a young man or a young woman. So, I mean, it's just the sheer scheduling capacity. I mean, you're playing, like I said, you're playing a lot of games in 6-8 weeks.
I've had 4 years now with this high school group that I have, and we play a lot of local, and it's still difficult to manage a local roster and local events just because of what is required.
Right.
You still have to practice, right? And I don't mind this stuff. Like, I know back when I played Legion baseball, practice 5 times, whatever, we had one off day, usually a Monday.
Right.
But we typically had off Monday, and then we did everything Tuesday through Sunday, right?
Right.
You get used to that stuff.
Sure.
But now it's like when I'm coaching a 15U team, parents are responsible to get them there, so they can't get them there on these dates. So then you end up practicing on Monday, which you just had, your weekend games. And then, so you got everybody beat up. So practice isn't great. So what do? Do you go in and hit? Do you do recovery? But that's not fun. You know what I mean? The hitting part's fun, but going in and doing recovery, a little speed.
How much effort are you getting after a full week, full weekend, Wednesday through Sunday? I mean, a lot of people are like, you got to be kidding me. So we got to go to practice. How much energy are they going to bring to practice? How much effort level? How much are you really going to get done?
I'm going to go back to this parent question, and we may just steer a little bit away from this because I really want to figure this thing out. And I'm sure we're not going to, because this is just my thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Parents have got to do a better job of listening, investing into organizations, into the coaching staff, asking the people that are there, and not being afraid to ask those things. Don't go on Facebook and be anonymous when you do this. Put your name out there so people can understand what we're doing and that you have the experience. If you're a parent that's been in the organization for 5 or 6 years, tell us why it's great. Put your name on it.
Right.
I don't like the anonymous
I can't
thing.
stand it.
I understand that people don't want retaliation, but if you're afraid of being retaliated on, you shouldn't be playing in that program to begin with.
Right.
So,
or don't post anything.
I mean, ultimately that might be the better.
Just stop posting stuff. Herein lies another issue: is social media. I mean, it's a trap. I mean, it's difficult. There's positives, but there's a lot of negatives to how much content, just that people are allowed to look at and then have opinions on. But once again, if you're not willing to put your name on it, don't post it.
Yeah, I don't like that. I hate that folks spit diarrhea and then won't.
Anonymous poster.
It.
Come on,
grow
up,
good.
Man up, woman up. Or just don't post.
Well, it's what I've seen sometimes is you start to like if you have a conversation with a lot of people, they'll post anonymously and you go, I know who wrote that.
Absolutely.
Because of the way they talk in life, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'll send a text. I'm like, nice job, anonymous number 13852 or whatever it is. And they're like, how did you know it was me? And I was like, dude, you talk like that around people. Like, right. I just took a stab and took a wild guess because I evaluate people for a living. So I listen and pay attention. So I just think that if parents are okay with paying $4,000 to coach for a young person to coach young people, and there's no value that they're getting other than a human body standing at that position. I don't know how a 22-year-old can coach up a 16-year-old with life stuff because they haven't experienced life. Because I can tell you right now, I probably spend more of my time being a life coach right now than being a baseball coach, because they're getting ready for college. They have relationship issues. They have work-related issues. They're not getting stronger. They're disappointed in their nutrition. And it's like, it changes every single year from 15U, then because you drive now, right? And then it's the freedom of driving. Then you don't want to do nothing because you want to hang out with your buddies. And that's the game changing, right? But as a parent, like, I don't know that I would want to pay for a 3 paid coaching staff.
Right.
And I can't imagine you would want to do that.
No.
And why pay $6,000 to just your summer coaching budget? And you got 2 months? So you're paying $3,000 a month. You have 15 kids. It's a lot of cash, in my opinion, to have somebody that doesn't have experience. So if we controlled as parents just to take and say, you know what, I'm not going to play for that 13th, 17U team. I'm going to go play Legion baseball where it's more efficient. We have more practice routines. It is the stress is very different. Still a lot of games.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, what's a 6-week season for Legion? And I mean, you're cranking out 50 games in 6 weeks. I mean, you're literally playing every day. And if you're not, you're practicing. I mean, that's what we did when we played Legion baseball. If we weren't playing, we were practicing.
Wouldn't that eliminate some of this nonsense that we see through a summer? Like we all know who has all the teams and things like that. You play their top team way different than playing their bottom teams.
Sure.
Their bottom teams are coached by heathens. They act like heathens. They are ridiculous on the field. They don't understand the game. They don't understand the rules. They argue with the umpire. They have their shirts halfway off. They're untucked. They come in sandals. They come in shorts.
Hey dudes.
I'll take hey dudes over some of them slippers. I'm not a fan of flip flops and stuff like that. But the music that they play,
jorts, fantastic. Cut off shirts with jorts. That's my favorite. So
Halloween, I sidetracked. I don't know if you saw this picture or not, but I found a jacket that I had when I was at Missouri Western. Still fit me. So naturally, I had me some tube socks because it was the late 90s, right?
Let it rip.
I did, and I cut a pair of jeans.
Oh, shut the front door.
Yeah, I went to the thrift store, found me a pair of jeans, and I cut them a little too short.
Uh-oh.
Don't do that. Highly don't recommend it. The seam did not fit where it was supposed to fit. I had a 45-minute drive. It was not comfortable. Wow. And
not when you're high-rising like that.
Yeah, so. I had my Missouri Western hat on. I mean, I looked like the straight late 90s.
Let's go.
I loved it. I was anyways. But the jorts thing, I just tell me your thoughts on like how can we control so that we can take the volume of these coaches that we do have available to us, because we still have this volume, but make the experience better for, instead of having 15 teams, what if we had 7 with a deeper coaching staff? We coached them up together and we had all these breakout sessions instead of guys just kind of, whatever. So what would you like to see in our baseball community at the high school level right now for its coaching staff? And how should organizations, I'm trying to figure out a way to ask this the right way. I wanted to go with this conversation kind of off the cuff because of where this might lead, which is we led down this different rabbit hole. But I just think we're in a bad space with high school baseball club-wise.
Right.
For the average athlete. I know all the premier players are doing what they do. That's
sure.
not, this ain't on them. I'm talking about the 13th team of that age group.
It's just the sheer size of a lot of these facilities that these clubs own. I mean, there is a ton of overhead to run these facilities, and you have to bring in mass amounts of numbers to cover what you're doing. And at the end of the day, it's a big business, and these facilities are becoming bigger. They're becoming, more elaborate with, cold plunges and recovery stations and weight rooms and, big time trainers coming in to do a lot of development, and, they're hit labs, they're pitch labs, they're, everything that's big business. It's a lot of money to pay for. You're not going to do that on a scale and still being a club owner and everybody else to make a pretty profitable, margin for themselves unless they are expanding the revenue base. So, a lot of these programs expand the revenue base by expanding how many teams they have. It's just the way the business model is. And until the business model shrinks, there you see a new facility popping up all the time, or expansion of facilities. That means more volume. You have to have more volume to subsidize everything. So
how do you train that many kids?
You can't. You can make them active, but you're really not going to develop that many kids. But you can put a product out there that gives them reps, fielding wise, throwing wise, hitting wise. There's really not a lot of personal development that goes on in a club setting other than they just go and they get reps.
Reps are good.
Reps are great. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of I need proper fielding technique, throwing technique, base running technique, outfield technique, catching technique, everybody goes to individual instructors. So that just jacks up the price even more. So, and I'm not complaining. I work with so many kids in multiple programs, and, it's hard to keep everybody in-house.
I agree. And I think about that same very thing. I don't do hitting anymore. I used to control our pitching, catching, hitting, whatever. I used to do it all. And I found that there are certain things that need an absolute to work on, just to help some kids out mechanically. Maybe you can help them throw and get them in position. But I felt like hitting was always the hardest thing to team, excuse me, a large organization to teach. Like,
Right.
because not everybody is on the same level, so you can't plan the same thing, and then you're doing generic stuff every single week, going through it, and there's no individualized attention.
Oh,
and
just the sheer volume will not allow individualized attention.
it won't. And so how can parents look at, say, well, my kid's going to be developed, walk into that situation, see it, and then go, I'm going to return to that. And I just think, like, is it comfort that people chase? Is it friends in the organization? Because I don't like the state of high school baseball for the summer here. I just don't.
Right.
I know that it has its good parts. I know it's needed. We need these folks. We need to train. We need to have the 6 weeks of hitting and all these little things that we try to do and incorporate. And I know that's supposed to lead to the facilities ultimately getting their coaches paid,
Mm-hmm.
but their coaches aren't getting paid. The facility is going to continue getting paid. And I just, like, I'm sick of people getting taken advantage of. And maybe that's why the young kids want to be paid so much, is because they are getting taken advantage of in other settings and things like that. And you can be upset with me. I'm in a large organization myself. I put my team with a large organization, but I want out of team sports. I want to migrate to being a pitch lab, a hit lab, and that's what I'm training. But I'll tell you this right now, I will make way more money doing that than trying to control teams.
Right.
I lose money because I try to be fair and have value, and I just kicked myself in my own teeth.
Right.
Because I care more about the value and I mean, I've screwed the pooch here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to get out of that, because I'm sick of getting yelled at for busting my tail and giving you all these opportunities. And I'm sick of you yelling at my coaches. I'm sick of you taking advantage of situations. Go to all these other places and experience that.
Right.
And you'll get surpassed by the kids that now I'm developing, because I would rather have 50 kids I can develop and have personal relationships within 200 kids I'm babysitting. That's the term you like to use all the time.
Right. It is. I mean, I would, I always steer to the quality aspect over the quantity aspect. And that I think that makes a lot of people like you and I pretty unique, because everybody wants mass numbers. The bigger the numbers, the bigger the profit. I'm not into that. We're doing a hitting camp on Monday. Andrew Keck and I, Martin Luther King, we maxed everything out at 20 participants for a 3-hour camp. That's a lot of value.
Lots.
So for me, I can get personalized. I can get it individualized. I can do a full assessment. I can get in tune with these athletes and still make a really good living for myself. Yep. I don't need to make $10,000 in a day. It's just me. Some people want to make that so they don't have to work as much. I'm not about that. I want people to get absolute value out of what I'm doing. And that's why Andrew and I, we capped it at 20 participants for 3 hours. Not many people would do that.
What's interesting is when we first discussed this, so I don't know if you guys know this, but it was Shane, Andrew, and Josh. We all got together, and the 4 of us were going to run a camp out in September. I couldn't get anybody to buy the camp, and it was limited at 20 people. It's what we wanted to do, is to create this dynamic atmosphere of working with some of the best coaches in this space. And nobody wanted to participate in it. Mm-hmm. I changed the dollar amount, made it super affordable. I could have probably had 150 kids at this camp.
Right.
And when we went through the process, it was a good camp. Like, we had a great time. Right. It was energetic. Oh, yeah. It was intense. I will tell you, it was a lot. It was loud. It was a lot going on. And there was some value that these kids had. Learn new drills, things like that. And when I go back and look at that, I'm like, well, did I have a good experience? Did Josh have a good experience? Because obviously, that you want to bring him back. Well, Josh loved it. It was the first time he ever done something crazy like this.
Right.
Well, he's doing a camp too. Guess how many he's got? Back down to 20.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because well,
it tells you about the individual too, and how much they really do care about development and really wanting to give value. And Josh Cathcart is that type of guy, and I have a lot of respect for guys like that, because a lot of guys aren't like that anymore.
So when I did the camp and I had 75 people, I did good. I mean, it was a whatever 70. Let's say it was $9,000 camp. I don't remember what it ended up being. That's a lot of cash.
Sure.
I paid most of that out to my coaches. I made almost no dollars because I wanted to make sure I paid the coaches and got them the experience and the excitement that they had, whatever. It wasn't about the money for me. It wasn't about the value. I wanted this experience.
Sure.
For whatever reason, it was like, oh, we can do this in the holidays. Let me go send the kids off for a couple hours. We did the babysitting thing.
Right.
It was fine. It really was fine.
Sure.
However, I want to do what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
It's the built relationships. It is the trust that you get. I don't know that I had a kid walked out of there with trust in the hitting zone or me or Josh or any other coach.
Sure.
When those kids leave your camp, just like what I want to do, they're going to have a little bit of value. They're going to follow you more. They're going to pay attention to your material more. And to me, I think that's where it's important. And it all goes back to starting where you started in this coaching world, which was volunteering.
Right.
I cut my teeth the same way you did. I went to Wash U. I'll start back in my high school, Rittner High School. Shout out to my Huskies. I volunteered for the first, when I got done playing ball, I went back, volunteered, went back to volunteer the second year. Coach paid me out of his pocket. Just gave me like $200. Have no idea why. Fast forward to go into my experience with Wash U. She says, I have no money for you. I said, I didn't even ask for money. She just told me she had no money, that I was going to be a volunteer.
Fair enough.
How do I do that? I didn't miss a practice.
Wow.
I live in Wentzville, drove down to Wash U. The only thing I got was when we were out of town, I got meals. And of course, the hotels out of town were paid. But I had to drive to the airport. I had to, all of these to practices, 5 o'clock in the morning, all these things. I did that for 2 years. Okay. I expected to go into the third year being a volunteer. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she goes, here's a contract. I was like, what's this? I looked at the number and I went, whoa. She goes, I'm going to try to make up for the previous 2 years.
That's fantastic.
And I looked at that and I go, I'm a bear down. Like I am by far going to stick with this coach because of the respect that she didn't have the budget to give to me. She made that budget.
Right.
So, but it was every year she's like, I gave volunteers because next year, if they're gone, I know they're not dedicated to this.
Right.
And now, like, they're not wasting budgets, money. And we talked about that earlier. And I just think if we could cut down all these teams and let these young 22-year-old coaches volunteer for a summer, why can't they get paid $1,000 next summer?
Right.
Why then $3,000 as a head coach the third year?
Sure.
And wouldn't a parent value that way more? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person. I probably need to ask you guys, would you value that? Because I know his answer.
Absolutely would.
Because that's what you did.
Absolutely.
And that's what you did as a coach too. I'm sure you brought those people on to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So do we actually ever get back to real volunteers?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty much, just aged out. I mean, it's going to go obsolete. So
that's a shame.
It is.
Is there a way to rephrase that and give kids opportunities? Like, I know internships, it could be the same thing, right? In my opinion, it's the same.
Right.
But can we use that as, say, like, as an organization, would this be good for our programs? And let's say we have a college kid, he's 19 years old, still in college, but I'm going to let him train for free, but yet he's going to intern, right? And the swap is you get training, you get trained at the facility, you get a membership to the facility, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But you have to coach this many dates for my organization. Doesn't matter what team. I'm not looking for you necessarily to build relationships. That could be a different story, but could that work?
It could, but how many kids are going to bite on it?
Does that say something about where we're at as baseball players or where we're at as our youth, young people?
I think it's just where we're at as, just a society in general. I mean, what's in it for me? There's no more, what can I do to build this? It's just, I want to be paid now.
I'm going to ask you that question personally for you, and then I'll answer it as well. What's in this for you how old are you?
52.
52. What is in it for you still at 52 years old to grind like you do?
My legacy, my family. I want to make people proud. I mean, it's my work ethic comes from, watching people in my family work their butt off. I mean, watching my mentors consistently grind. I love to do what I do. I don't like to sit around. So for me, I don't have to work 7 days a week. I choose to do it because I love to do it. But at the end of the day, when I'm gone, I want people to understand how much passion, how much love I had for the game, and how much I wanted to give back, and how much I really appreciate people give to me. So, it's just a different mindset for me. I love to do what I do.
You said legacy, and when I think about, and I'm the same way. I love my last name. You know, I love everything about I love I get emotional with my daughter getting back in the game, and now she's doing instructions on various levels. I'm trying to get her cut her teeth a little bit. I'm not paying her a buttload of money.
Right.
She's making like $20 an hour, which I think is a lot of money right now.
Right.
But I think that's good.
Absolutely.
And you know what? She shows up every day, energetic, whatever. And it makes me proud because at the end of the day, like, who's going to carry that on? Who's going to carry those experiences? So legacy to me is how I feel like that's what I want people to remember me for.
Absolutely.
Not my mechanics, you know,
Right.
not even that I got them to college or that's the experience that they had, but it was the relationships, that it's the things that you get invited to, the unfortunate situations as we get older, is that death is more relevant than maybe birth, right? So to be able to see, you know, your friend passes or your mentor passes, you go visit that, then all of a sudden somebody you mentored has a kid.
Right.
And then guess what? That kid is now getting trained by you. I know that you go through that now.
I've got numerous kids that I'm working with now whose parents took lessons from me.
I can't believe how awesome that is.
It's incredibly awesome.
And I care way more about that than some of this, like how many.
What that tells you is you made an everlasting impact on that individual and their family, and they want you now to pass that on to their children.
Is that way?
How gratifying is that?
Yeah, is that way cooler than any?
It's way cooler. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know that you've had some experiences with getting guys into the next levels, you know, pro ball, college ball, etc.
Right.
I don't think probably anything beats what you just said.
I mean, it's priceless.
I don't know that anybody cares about that anymore unless you're older.
Right.
And maybe that's because they haven't experienced the time yet. I sometimes try to put myself in my 22-year-old shoes. And when I was 22, I cared still a lot about this. I don't know that I cared as much as I did now because I didn't quite understand, you know, impacting somebody. And then, you know, 10 years later, they're asking you to be at their wedding or their you know, their daughter's first birthday or kid's first birthday, stuff like that. Like, and maybe that's where I'm missing, you know, when I go back and say, but you know, whatever, but I absolutely, what you just said is the same reason why I still want to continue to do this till I'm 50, 60 years old, you know,
absolutely.
55, 60 years old. I don't want to give up on this. And maybe I cannot throw BP like I used to. Maybe I can't swing like I used to, because I'm figuring that out right now, by the way. And I can still talk.
Absolutely.
Right. I still got my mind. I'm still pretty sharp. And so then how do you start, you know, how do you redevelop your brand or, you know, rebrand yourself? And I look at just the journey in mine, and I know that you've had these in your journey.
Absolutely.
Personally and professionally. Sure. And so do you think that's from the experiences of volunteering, or do you just think that's just because of who you are?
I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. I think it's both, really.
I wanted to try to make sure I asked that question the correct way, because I feel like I don't feel like I'm owed anything.
No.
And I have no problem sacrificing. I'm making sacrifices right now in my career to hope that when I transition, that I somehow make it up down the road. I want to get in more of what you're doing. Not that I'm looking to go into all these other spaces, but specifically for my location, I don't want to rely on teams. They're so inconsistent. And I don't know how long or when. I do think this is going to come to a head and it's going to blow up, because I do think at some point parents are going to start getting frustrated. I just wonder, is the volunteer coach ever going to be as important as the dad coach?
Right.
You know, it used to be, I guess, kind of the same thing, but now it's like, I'm not a dad coach. I'm a true volunteer. I volunteered at the high school level. I volunteered at the college level, and everything I've done from that is on my resume.
Right.
And people look at that and go, you did what? You did what? And it's like, cool. You've put in 100 hours of volunteer time for this summer. You know, and I'm like, well, why didn't you talk about the 7 years I was at I got paid on contract at this university.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or this high school.
Right.
They don't look at that stuff.
No.
Because I guess that's normal,
Sure.
you know, and they're like, you're dedicated because you spent 2 years doing this and then 7 years doing that.
Absolutely.
That's the guy I want, you know, running my program. I don't know. Maybe it's my old school thoughts. But I know I talked a lot, Shane. I apologize for having you drive out here and me talking most of the time. I probably could have just had you stay home and I could called you from home. It would have been easier for you. But
I choose to drive up here because I like the personal connection. I don't like doing, remote stuff. I want to be personal with everybody, So that's just the way I operate. And I have no problem driving up here. I thoroughly enjoy it. I appreciate the time here and, what we can do to just put content out there and just share our love for the game and our passion and try to grow the game the right way, really.
Yeah. I want to impact it. I want to impact it in 2026. I want to be a little bit more edgy and in our conversations. And I think that happened today with kind of, who is the responsibility on for, figuring out what's the most important thing. And I will say this, I think athletes need to invest in themselves versus investing in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
If you're mad at me for saying that, I have 3 fingers. You can read between the lines. I am okay if you're frustrated with me by saying that. People still need a place to play. They're going to play for you. All I want is you to actually develop these athletes to be prepared and keep the promise that you're promising and your sales pitch in June and July. That's all I want for all of your players, not just your studs.
Right.
For all of them, because there are recreational kids out there. There's unathletic kids that need you more as a coach, as a developer, as an instructor, that need you way more than these studs that can go out and work every day. You just need to give them a plan. They'll execute it. These young people who are, I think I have this attachment to the big kid, the unathletic kid that needs to, and probably because of my size, but why are we giving up on, and just taking their money,
right?
And promising these kids are going to play on. Oh, you can make the national team. No, you can't.
They get I mean, it's tough. I mean, it really is. I mean, but you look from a standpoint of when you sign that 5-year lease agreement to lease a 20,000 or 25,000 square foot facility, and your overhead and expenses are $25,000 a month. That's a big nut to cut. So they need to bring in volume. And there's a lot of pressure on these club owners. And, if they're not bringing in numbers, they're reneging on agreements, they're out. So you got to look at it from their standpoint too, is they're making a huge, deal to, sign these lease agreements. And I mean, that's a lot of pressure on these people. But, at the end of the day, you can choose to have a smaller facility and really invest in limited numbers, but more ability to develop it. It's not the way it works. A lot of people don't have the mindset that I have. I never wanted to have a big club because I wanted to have a personal connection to all the players and parents and families that were investing their hard-earned money into our product. I like my circles to be small. I don't need big volume. It's not how I operate, but that's just me. That's my business model. It's not making me a millionaire, but you know what? I go to bed every night satisfied with what I do. I wake up every morning and I look at myself in the mirror and go, you're doing this for the right reasons. I'm supporting my family.
Yeah.
I'm working hard for it. But at the end of the day, I can't just sit on the couch and do nothing. My wife, I drive her nuts. When I do have a day off, I'm up doing everything. And it just drives her berserk, but that's just the way I'm wired. That's why I will work as long as I possibly can work. Till my body can physically, it's just, I have to do what I do.
I think following you on social media, you work so that you can create this awesome man cave that you have. Like when the Blues actually score a goal.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that goal light come on a little bit more than what it has been lately.
Well, the last couple of games have been terrible, but they had a nice little stretch there that they
2 games.
Well, it was I said nice stretch. It was a week apart.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it felt like a stretch. Yes. Maybe it's a stretch.
Right.
I'm kidding. I love the man cave. Eagles.
Oh boy.
Are you gonna fire him?
We're in trouble offensively, and until we get an offensive coordinator in there with some personality and some openness to put the playbook back into place and let these athletes be athletes.
They got
that.
Stupid.
It's stupid good athletes and completely underachieved this year. I can't say that from a defensive standpoint. Vic Fangio was absolutely incredible. It's just, I don't know. I'm just glad it's over with so I can enjoy watching playoff football again and not be miserable knowing that, the early exit at least gives me the opportunity to enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Does Tomlin move on?
I think he does. What more does he have to prove? That's the same thing with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, 19 years.
Or John Harbaugh.
Yeah, I know.
What do they have left to approve? They're both fantastic coaches that have done really good things for the cities they're in. But I think that, everything, it just runs its course. Go get a fresh new perspective. Or I'm pretty sure they've made enough money to support their family. They can just enjoy life. But once again, they're old school hard workers that can't get enough of it.
That's why I wonder if Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. I think he hinted to today. I think there was some things that came out, and I'm like, is this guy going to do it, or is he going to go do some more ayahuasca trips and for 4 days or whatever he's going to get into, come back revamped?
That's all he's got to do is cleanse, man. Just got to cleanse, and he'll be ready to go.
That's what we call it, as a cleanse.
Yeah, he's got to cleanse.
He goes down a journey that I probably should.
He's a weird individual, but man, what an athlete and what a career.
Oh man, Hall of Famer, right?
First ballot, easy, no question.
Easy. I know that we got off topic, but how did you become an Eagles fan?
Well, when the football Cardinals left way back in the day and shattered my dreams as a complete St. Louis nut, being Blues hockey, Cardinals baseball, Cardinals football, there was another bird, and they were in the same division, and I just adopted it. So
nobody understands, because these young people you have conversations with, and they love all the, Tom Brady's of the world, and I go back and think about like Eric Metcalf. And Dan Dierdorf and
oh my goodness, yes,
all the guys, and you guys got to remember
Stump Mitchell,
in the 80s,
Otis Anderson,
they were a Super Bowl caliber team, and then what was it, 86? I think they left, right? 86 maybe they left,
something like that, 85, 86, something like that, yes.
And that's how I became a Chiefs fan, was because. Obviously Chiefs are in a state, but I have family in Kansas City. Right. So I became a Chiefs fan because at 6 years old, I don't remember what the Chiefs were doing or the Cardinals were doing. I just remember as I got into sports, I was like, did you know?
Right.
And then we would go to Dierdorf and Harts and Westport Plaza to eat steaks and stuff like that. But, baseball is in a weird space here. Obviously, we're in the middle of our training here, and I absolutely love what we're doing with Youth Baseball Midwest. It is about relationships. I think this is why it's been my 3rd year here. I know that you've been doing these shows for at least a couple years,
right?
Coming up here to participate. So we thank you for that.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My goal is to simply just push the envelope a little bit and get you thinking about what is important for you and your athletes primarily, and making sure that you're investing or asking the questions that I think we should be, which is, if you have these paid coaches, what is that paid coach's experience like? Are you going to be lumped into a group and then dispersed into these pods or anything like that, which, by the way, is fine. You just need to know that,
right? Be
realistic. And somebody needs to tell you, your athlete, and it needs to be okay, that if they're not good enough, here's your plan, and go execute it. You can't just wake up and be very, very good at baseball players. No. I mean, maybe Ken Griffey Jr. did, maybe Barry Bonds did, but why did they work so hard? Still at their craft, even though they were the best at the times. And Barry might be best of all time, maybe top 3 of all time. If these guys don't sleep and all they do is work hard, Kobe Bryant's, the Michael Jordans of the world, why do you expect a kid that has very average skills to become some superstar because you spend 30 minutes in a cage or you go play for a name across your chest? That kid's name behind the back, that means you need to go outside and throw on BP. You need to go outside and play catch with him. If you can't play catch, guess what? If you two play catch together, you're probably both going to get better.
Right?
And you can save money this way, which it takes from you, it takes from me. But at the end of the day, if you can get a better athlete at 14 years old because they spent 9 through 14 you playing catch in the backyard, hitting in the backyard, hitting wiffle balls, kicking kickballs, or whatever kids do, I would rather have that kid at 14 years old than trying to have him at 12 years old trying to develop something he's going to change every 6 months anyways because he's growing. So I just want people to know that from in my thoughts, not opinions, because those are emotional, right, Brian? Opinions are emotional. My thoughts are ask questions.
Right.
Ask them all the time, and think about it. Right. What do you have? We're obviously not talking about volunteer coaching anymore,
No.
because that was simple. Because there's no such thing as it
We
anymore.
completely rerouted, and that is perfectly fine.
What advice can you give to parents today preparing for tryouts? The top question that you would ask preparing for tryouts in now April.
Yeah.
That's sarcasm. In June, what's one question that you would give parents to say, ask this organization, ask this coach?
What is the expectation level of the team? What are the goals of the coaching staff? I mean, what is the schedule? What is the budget? I mean, it all ties into what am I getting developmental wise? Other than what I just, a lot of people just want to come to a program based on what they see on social media. They see all these commitments, D1 commitments, D2 commitments, all these big alumni lists, and they think that can be my kid. But, those people are, it's tough because they think they can get there, but they really need to understand what it will take to get there. And is there enough transparency with every player that walks in there for people to be honest with and say, listen, you're likely not going to play Division I college baseball. You're likely not going to play Division II college baseball. I mean, those guys are one of the 4 or 5 percenters. To get to the D1 level, you get maybe it's a 1 or 2 percenter. But there's a level for people to play at. But what are the expectations levels? What are the goals? I mean, what are the standards? And what am I getting for the amount of money that I'm about to invest besides just an opportunity to go play, put on a uniform, and go to a tournament?
That's about it.
Right.
That's where I feel like we're at right now. That's about it. We're just playing baseball games that have almost zero meaning. We talked about it before. You're going nowhere. You don't qualify for events anymore.
No, it's all given.
Yeah, and maybe on the higher levels, there's some events that you do that on, but there's no qualifications to actually go somewhere. You can get
no points. Because there's so much variety with all these tournament companies. They just want you to be there. There's how many tournament companies are out there? I mean, it's huge business, and they're going to take any warm body or any warm teams they can that's going to pay the amount of money for tournament fees, gate fees, stay to play in hotels. So what is this really about? Is it about the kids anymore, or is it about filling pocketbooks?
This is the wrong trickle down.
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, I really do think there are a lot of entities and companies that really do care, but at the end of the day, everybody wants to be the biggest and the boldest and the richest.
How do you care for 500 people?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't do it.
A nurse works 12 hours. They have about 6 people they have.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? A school teacher gets maybe 30 a class, so maybe they get 100 something in a day because they're a high school teacher for 6 hours, whatever.
Right.
I have no idea how somebody can look and go, I know the top 5 players and I know the bottom 5 players' names in that setting. And that drives me bat-ish crazy. That
there's no personal connection.
I loved we used to have 20 teams, and I thought it was I was all over the place, scatterbrained. When we got down to like 8 or 9, I love it.
Right.
I have much more control of the
Absolutely.
development, which I think what we should do is maybe have another coach come on. I might try to get Steve to come on and talk about, this is what Brian talks about. We've talked about this all the time. One's fluff, right? But what is development? And I don't know that we've ever really attacked a single show on that with a bunch of different personalities. So I think, what Brian and I think. I don't know what you think about it. And so I say we do another show.
Absolutely.
Coming up on what is development. And I'm going to see if I can get Steve on.
The problem is, do they want development or do they want the fluff? You mentioned fluff. They want the prestige of being in a big club with a lot of commitments and a lot of social media presence. Is the fluff outweighing the development? Because they think maybe because they're in a bigger club, they're going to be in a bigger spectrum to be seen more.
Yep.
But are they really being developed more? Because as a small club, that's tough to survive because people want the fluff.
Yeah. Well,
they really do.
They really do. And so if you want to hear about the fluff, since you're already on YouTube, you need to go make sure you subscribed, and then you can scroll back through the Hitting Zones podcasts that I do, they're sectioned off so you can see everybody's podcast and go back there. I think it was called What the Fluff, something like that. Be careful how you say that.
Yeah.
I had to really think about that before I said that.
Trouble with that.
I've never cussed in this building yet, and I'm not going to. That's knock on wood, right? But anyways, Shane, I appreciate you coming on today.
My pleasure.
This was the first show of 2026 for me. I think I was a little rusty. I went into this thinking off the cuff. Now, what I've learned from this, because we should always learn, is no matter what, I should probably have prepared questions. But I was thinking it was going to take us somewhere, and it took us that way, right? And I thought I could do a really good job of kind of freestyling this. And I'm not going to say it was a bad show.
No.
But I will be much more prepared when we do our development show next time, so that I stay on track. Sometimes you win, sometimes
Get him
you
a
lose.
GPS here for the next show.
Yeah,
Stay in the course.
I feel like I had like a duck fart single with an RBI, so it makes my day look good. But I was like 1 for 3 with that duck fart. I'm gonna go.
But it looks
0
good in the
for 4.
boxcar.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 0 for 4 next week with 4 missiles. Well, not next week. Next time we do our
Right.
because I'm gonna save what is development with you. So I'm gonna try to get you on in the first couple weeks of February. So again,
Let's do it.
subscribe. That was very difficult for me to say for some reason. Hit the dinger, get the notifications, follow us on our socials, TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. He's on all of them. Youth Baseball Midwest, which is now also on TikTok. Make sure that you go follow them, get their follows up so that they can go live on their events, stuff like that. And maybe you do that 6 or 7 times for all of us, whatever you want to do. I'm not sure. Did you catch that? It's always... Oh, wrong show. You guys all have yourself a great day out there. Make sure you tune in next week. I'll be on again, have some fun guests. Not dropping that just yet. We're going to bring Shane on in the first couple weeks of February, and we're going to talk about what is development. In the meantime, leave messages, comments.
Buckle up for that, folks.
We will get into it because I told you I want to be a little edgy.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Thanks, Shane.
You bet.